Welcome back, everybody. It's Wes Eisenchank here again with Lost and Found Muscle Cars. We continually are getting these great posts on the Lost Muscle Cars Facebook page. We're converting them now into videos here on Lost and Found Muscle Cars just on YouTube. And I tell you what, we've got a great audience with us, but we need people to like and subscribe to these videos because we want to keep bringing you all the coolest stuff out there on this side of the automotive world. Today, I got a special guest. His name's Eddie. Eddie had a 1970 Shelby GT350 Mustang. And I'll tell you what, man, if you've been watching the auctions or taking a look at resale prices, these 69 and 70 Shelby GT350s and GT500s have caught up to the field. They've always kind of languished a little bit behind their counterparts, but they are on fire right now. And Eddie, you had a 70 GT350 and you are looking for it. Talk to me a little bit about it, buddy. Let's go.
All right. Well, let's start off by I bought it by accident. I was pumping gas. I was 14 years old, and I was pumping gas at Lejeune Golf in Miami.
What year?
Well, it was in 1973.
Wow.
And
Okay.
we referred to this car as the funny-looking Mustang because what's what it was. 14 years old, I didn't know any better. This guy was a pilot. Don't know what airline, but he was a pilot based out of Miami, and he had bought it new. I found that out when I bought it from him.
Wow.
I asked him one day, I said, hey, I'm looking for a car. Are you interested in selling this? And he said, no, not really. And I said, okay, well, I'll let it go. And a couple months later, he approached me when I was again pumping gas into this beautiful car. And he says, are you still interested? I said, yeah, how much? And he told me $1,900 for it. It was 3 years old, had 18,000 miles on it. So I said, okay. I said, my dad will be in touch because I'm not old enough to buy it. And I got his phone number. My dad talked him down to $1,750, and I bought the car. And
So-
I gave my dad the money, cash, because I've been working forever, pumping gas and saving my money for my first car.
Most 14-year-old kids are looking for a bike or something to horse around with their buddies, but you're looking for a set of four wheels at 14.
Well, that's a story in itself. My dad owned a gas station. I've been driving cars in and out of the shop since I was probably 8, 9 years old.
Oh,
So
gosh.
cars were me.
Yeah.
I'd sit on my dad's lap and we'd drive. I would steer, thinking I was steering. I wasn't. I'm sure he was. But that's how it all started. His mechanic had a 65 Mustang and I idolized it, the car, him. He sold it. I was devastated, and then he bought a 67 Fastback Mustang. And that's a car in itself that I'd love to find now, too.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's get one duck in a row, right?
Right.
So we're back in 1973. It's the gas crunches on the horizon. We're looking at muscle cars becoming a dying breed. You get this car for $1,750. What's a 14/15-year-old kid's plans for a car at that time?
Well, at the time, I was just hoping to get to 15, where I had a restricted driver's license, and I got it on my birthday. And for a year, my mom had a chauffeur. Because everywhere she wanted to go, we drove that car.
Mom and Dad helping fill up the tank since you're giving them a ride somewhere?
No, not at all. My car, my gas.
That's right. So you get this Shelby GT350. Are you starting to learn about what a Shelby is at that time?
Not at all. Didn't have a clue. I had no clue whatsoever what I had till probably, I would say, I'd say about 77, 78, when I was 3 or 4 years into it, is when, and talking to different people, I say, oh, wow, I'd graduated high school by then. That's a neat car, and what is it? And I'd tell them, and they go, wow, I've never seen that, never seen that. And that's when I started kind of getting the idea that, I had something there.
Yeah.
Like most kids, and I wrecked the first car I had, which was the Shelby. Minor accident, and that's one of the telltale signs if we ever find it, is that the right front has some fiberglass work on the right front fender. Very minor, but there is some there behind the battery.
So by
So,
this time in the world of Shelby, comes 1968, most of all the manufacturing has been moved to Detroit. Carroll has been getting in trouble with finances, and the 67s are kind of the last of the true Shelbys. Ford Motor Company starts to take over Shelby Automotive. And by the time we get to 1970, man, we don't even have new cars. We have carryover 1969 Mustangs rebadged as 70s because those 69 Shelbys didn't sell.
right.
And here we are in 1970, the last year of the American built Shelby Mustang. So yeah, for all of our viewers out there, that's kind of the quick speed up version of it. But there's a lot more in the details. But so here you are, you get into a little minor fender bender with the Shelby. What'd you wreck?
Well, I hit a car that was turning right and decided to stop in the middle of the turn. And being an inexperienced driver, as I now know, I should have slowed down. Instead I judged that he was going to continue the turn, and he didn't.
Well, you did pretty good to get 4 or 5 years into ownership of the car before you dinged it up.
Oh, no, 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 no! I hate to stop you, but I
Oh,
dinged it up probably within a year of driving by
okay,
myself. It didn't
wonderful.
last long.
Good, good. I mean, the hard to find stuff on those Mustangs, the hood probably, and some of the other additions that the Shelby Mustangs had. I mean, did you wreck it enough where you had to actually go source new old stock parts?
No, they patched the fender, like I said, and at the time it was a green, dark green, which they call black jade, is the factory color.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I wanted it painted dark navy blue, and that's one of
Mm-hmm.
the pictures that you have.
Yeah.
Uh, and the guy that did the work was fantastic. Got lucky. It was the husband of somebody I worked with. He owned his own body shop. This is all fix it up for you, I'm a young
Oh.
kid, and he helped me out. He did a beautiful job, painted all the door jambs. You'd never see the green anywhere on that car. You know.
Okay, so it's gone through its first transition in paint here, and now were you
Correct.
doing anything customizing with the wheels or
Nope.
anything inside with plush carpeting or anything?
No, no, it's all stock. The only thing I added, the car was from the factory had only an AM radio. So back then, 8 tracks, which
Yeah.
and the FM converter, and it was all in one unit, and it was
Mm.
vertically attached to the side console. So that'd be another little thing. There'd be, unless somebody replaced the console, there'd be a couple little holes, small screws that would attach that to the side. Originally I put speakers in the back, right by the roll bar where it wraps around, the plastic wraps around. I put 2 holes for 5x8 speakers, so those should be there. But other than that, the car was stock. The interior was black with the Mustang seats from a '69 Mach 1 is what
Mm.
was put in these cars, which were all black, and then it had a red stripe on the back, about 3/4 the way up. Uh, the engine had a little problem with the engine where the H pipe collapsed, and it ended up blowing a head gasket. And a gentleman by the name of H.C. Wilcox was the biggest engine builder in Miami, and he happened to be the grandfather of my best friend. So he rebuilt the motor, left it stock, same thing, just as it came from factory. Only because I couldn't afford to put anything into it, or I would have hopped it up some more. Uh, but
So
yeah,
these,
go ahead.
yeah. So at this time, though, we're at 1969, 1970. The GT350 actually has a 351 in it,
Correct.
and GT 500s were 428 cars. So, what was the drivetrain on this car from start to back?
351 Windsor, automatic transmission. I don't know what the rear end was. Again, I didn't get into it because I was not into that part.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to think what else was a distinguishing thing on the car. The difference between the 69s and the 70 was they put hood stripes,
Yes.
and some of them had the chin spoiler. Mine did not. And somebody told me that some of the dealers kept those for some of the Mustangs, because they didn't sell. You're right. I mean, they did not sell whatsoever. The 69s did not sell very well. My understanding, there's only 316 70 GT350s, like 316, 317, I think is what I read. And there's only 33 that were made in that color. So sold out of Miami with it, 33 in that color.
It doesn't take long to drill down, does it?
Right. No, it doesn't. I mean, it's an air-conditioned car, factory air-conditioned. So, and that was an option. A lot of the northern Shelbys did not have air conditioning. But yeah, other than that, that's the unique part. And then you move forward in 1977, I moved to Ohio. And me and a good buddy of mine moved up to Ohio to see snow. Okay, that great.
That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. I had never seen snow. I grew up in Florida, so I'd never seen snow. So I put a bumper hitch on it from U-Haul. So there's holes in the back bumper, unless again they replace those. And we hauled a U-Haul up to Ohio with all my belongings.
You have to put what on your Shelby?
Well, I put what they call a bumper hitch. It attaches to the rear bumper of the car.
Oh.
And we pulled a 5x8 trailer with all our stuff in it, both his and mine, including his parrot, except the parrot was in the back seat of the car. And yeah, we brought it up to Ohio. And once we got into the hills in Georgia, we couldn't exactly go as fast as we wanted to go because the car would overheat. It would start, the temperature gauge would start going up. So we'd slow down and it would keep up doing, 50, 55 miles an hour. But if you got going faster than that, once you got to the hills, you had to watch because the temperature gauge would rise.
So I can just see it now, you guys kind of slowly passing like a Volkswagen Beetle. And the people are looking over, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, what the hell is that?
Not only that, then they would pass us back on the hill because
That's
we had
right.
to slow down.
Yeah. They got to pull up the grade on you.
Yeah.
That's a cool story, Eddie. Yeah, I mean, and this parrot, how long did he live with you guys?
Well, he lived, he's still alive. Parrots lived to be over 100 years old. He lived with us till we split up, and then Mike took him when we both got married. Mike took him, it was his parrot. He took him and he lives down in Texas. And he's no longer with Mike. Mike passed it on when he had kids because, unfortunately, the parrot learned what teenagers talked like. So he cussed up a storm. So once the families came, the parrot was no longer welcome.
I can't imagine you two were positive influences on this parrot either.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, you know what? Maybe he's the missing cog in this whole story, right?
Yeah. I should back up. Out of the blue, I decided I wanted to change the color on it again. And I painted it silver with black stripes, black hood stripes, and black side stripes. The reflective, you could still get the kits back then. You could still get them right from Ford. So black was one of the stripes that they had, and so that's the way we went. And I had that car in Ohio up until 1981, the fall or early 82. My daughter was born in June of 81, and I know I had it still then. And it was, due to that I ended up selling it. And I want to say it was early 82. And I put an ad in the newspaper and listed it for $5,000. By then I knew I had something, but it wasn't what the prices were. They were just starting to creep up.
Yeah, you're right there. You're just probably even with MSRP for that thing brand new, right? That car
Right.
had already taken its nosedive and it had started its increase, in which it hasn't stopped yet since 1981, 82.
Right.
but here they are, right? They're really collectible now. So we're setting the table here for our fans out there, right? So we're looking for a black jade 70 Shelby GT350 with an automatic. This car would have a Marty report that would say it was sold new somewhere in Florida. So those are some really, really good touch points for people out there who may have a car. Nearly all of us get a report on some sort of performance oriented FOMOCO. So hopefully somebody out there knows a little bit about their car and is watching this video. Now, take us to why you sold the car.
Well, my daughter was born in June of 1981, and we'd only been married a year and a half,
Hmm.
so we were just starting out, and it was a matter of I needed the money more than the car.
And those car seats don't fit so well back there.
I know, yeah. We were living in an apartment, the car's sitting outside. You know, it doesn't get driven in the winter, but it sat outside in the winter.
What condition was the car in when you sold it? After
Good.
that repaint, did it stay as
Yeah.
nice as it was?
Yes. Yes. No rust on it. Uh, maybe some surface rust underneath it, but no body rust. And the front end was completely fiberglass. So both
Mm.
front fenders and the hood were fiberglass, and the back end from the quarters back, that's a fiberglass back end on them. The other thing is the Shelbys had dual exhaust, and then it came to that pot metal collector in the back that came out the middle. Okay, well, they were known that it was known that water would collect in those collectors, and they would rot out
Hmm.
at the point where they went back to the center of the car. So it was an easy fix. I mean, you cut it off. The standard thing to do was cut it off, put a couple little downturns, and you didn't have to mess with the exterior of the car. It still
Sure.
looked stock, but it wasn't. It had exhaust coming straight down. It did
Yeah.
not have headers on it. It had the stock exhaust. Nothing, like I said. It was all original. Basically, it was all original, other than the colors. I changed the colors, and at last that I saw it, it was silver with black. You
So,
know,
what town were you in Ohio, and do you remember any details about the individual who came to buy it?
I lived in Stowe, Ohio, which is a suburb of Akron, Ohio, and the gentleman that bought it told me he was from Cleveland. And I wish I'd kept his phone number because he wanted to see if I still had the original AM radio. Because by then I had changed the radio to a AM FM cassette in the dash that looked, you didn't have to modify the dash at all for it. And I told him I would look, when I got down to my parents' house, which I'd never found it. And I did call him and tell him that, but again, I wish I had that phone number.
So, so, so all the people out there listening now, at this point, this gentleman who buys this car, he's thinking stock. He's thinking going back to stock by wanting that AM radio. So
Right.
there are. It's really amazing thinking about when these cars started becoming collectible and when people started having the foresight to start collecting those parts that were taken off right away early in the life of these cars. And
Right.
and here he is asking for what would be a worthless AM radio because at this
Right.
point everyone's rocking tape decks and got the new 6x9s out back, but he's thinking back to stock with this car. So hopefully his intentions weren't to be too rough on it, but to maybe start bringing the car back
Back to
around.
original. I would
Yeah,
say it's probably. I would say that he'd probably turn it back to that black jade because that was the original color.
sure,
That'd
sure.
be my guess. Just by, like you said, he wanted the radio. Uh, there were two speaker cutouts right by the roll bar, or had speakers back there in the back.
Mhm.
Um, and there was some under the dash, but they were just bolt on. They could have been easily taken out. No harm, no foul there. Um,
So, for all of our Lost and Found Muscle Cars fans, take yourself back to Cleveland, 1981, 1982 ish, and put your thinking caps back on. Do you recall seeing a silver with black stripes Shelby running around? Or even a person who had told you they had just bought a Shelby and they had intentions of maybe restoring a car? Because that really is where we got our teeth sunken into at this point. That's the last confirmed sighting of your old car, right, Eddie?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Now, ironically, today I was telling somebody at the pool about this, and this gentleman was there from Cleveland that I've made friends with down here. I'm in Florida right now. Anyhow, I talking to him, and he's from Cleveland. He says, there was a guy around the corner from my parents' house when I was growing up that had two Shelbys in his garage. He says, I couldn't tell you what colors they were, but boy, he says, it could have been one of yours because we were trying to go by the dates of when I got rid of it. He says, that very easily could have been, which isn't that ironic, but again, it led nowhere,
That would have been too easy. That would have
That
been
would have
way
been too
too
easy,
easy,
yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. Just like if you would have kept paperwork or that guy's phone number. No, we gotta make it difficult, but we got 100,000 people to put this in front of
Right,
on Facebook and watch what we can do. I mean, once we get this video out, Eddie, I think you're going to start hearing some things you hadn't heard before because this
right.
car it's gonna have survived, in my opinion. By the time we get to the early 80s and this car is perceived as collectible at that point in time, there's not going to be another guy after that who's going to be like, hey, let's hop up this Mustang and go drag racing, right? I think you're probably in a safe spot right now. Here's the big thing, though. Has this car ever been registered in any of the Shelby registries?
I was just getting ready to tell you that. I belonged to the Shelby Club back then, and I tried contacting them, and I wasn't able to get through to anybody that could tell me what, anything about the car or me. But it should have, I believe back then you had to give them your VIN number to join the club. And it wasn't too long ago I found a magazine, their monthly magazine, from the Shelby Club with my name on it and the whole bit. And ironically, I gave it to a buddy of mine that's got two Cobras.
Mm.
So I gave him that, and he still has it. He'll never get rid of that book. But just he was more into the club thing back then, the magazines, reading about it, because they weren't really about the Mustang Shelbys. It was more about the coupes,
So you were a member of the Shelby Club, and
I
at
was a
some
member.
point
Yeah.
you likely had submitted your car's DNA to them, and that's an avenue we got to go explore.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. That should have been in, I'm going to say 76, 77 that I was in that. 76, 77, 78 in that neighborhood.
Well, we're going to test their archives and see what they have in the deepest, darkest corner of the Shelby registry. So, Eddie, any last parting shots regarding your Shelby? I mean, it's sat with you for this long, and how long have you been looking for it?
Not. I got the bug here probably a couple years ago because I'm retired now. So now I
Yeah.
started thinking, it'd be fun to have a muscle car again. And I got the one picture enhanced, and I said, boy, that'd be nice to have that back, And then I started thinking, realistically, I'm not going to be able to probably buy it if it's been restored. The price is outrageous. They're crazy, but I'd love to know where the car is, at least see it. That'd be the holy grail right there, just to at least see it.
Folks, we got our marching orders, right? And to recap, we're looking for a 70 Shelby GT350, original black jade, possibly sold at Deal Ford, an outskirt of Miami. This car would have had an automatic transmission. There would have been potentially some holes in the center console for an aftermarket radio. Little telltale signs like that is what we're looking for. Anybody who remembers working on this car. Eddie had mentioned it had some damage and had some repair work done to it. That probably would have scarring underneath the paint from any kind of tear down to analyze this car. So, folks, we got a fish to fry. Let's help Eddie find his old Shelby Mustang. Eddie, thank you kindly for joining us here at Lost and Found Muscle Cars. We will be in touch, and please, everyone out there, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Tell Eddie your favorite memory of a Shelby Mustang. Till next time, I'm Wes. This is Lost and Found Muscle Cars.